We are at Circuito do Estoril on the outskirts of Lisbon for the second round of the FIM JuniorGP World Championship. Having been treated to an excellent opening race earlier today, Moto2 are back out on track for their second race of the weekend and third of the championship. 17 laps, well, initially meant to be 17 laps, now two-thirds race distance across the 4.1 kilometer stretch of tarmac await us in a field packed with quality. Alberto Sura took victory in the opening round of the campaign, with Mattia Casadei winning in the earlier race, leaving us very tight at the top of the championship. Who will leave Estoril in round 2 as the rider to catch? It's time to find out. And as you can see, if you're joining us from the morning sessions, that things have cleared up significantly here at Circuito do Estoril. The rain has gone, it has abated, dissipated if you will, and now we have dry conditions. But this is how things went in race 1. Mattia Casadei launched from pole position, but it was Taiga Hara who took the whole shot going into turn 1. The Japanese rider did his best to fend off the challenges of Casadei in wet conditions, but eventually the 2023 Moto2 World Champion managed to get his nose in front. Diving up the inside here of the Japanese rider. Behind them then it was Montero and Eric Fernandez battling for the provisional podium positions. Fernandez we see here diving up the inside to take P3. Well, then coming down the front straight, Taiga Hara was powerless to resist Casadei as he stole the initiative from the Japanese rider. Casadei opened up a gap as we began to lose riders to the conditions, Montero among them. Another big high side here for home favourite Ivo Lopez. Then Taiga Hara and Jorge Navarro battled for podium positions. Jorge Navarro, returning rider to the Moto2 class, well known in the Moto2 World Championship. He took P3 from Taiga Hara, but was soon in P2 as Eric Fernandez crashed out, meaning Mattia Casadei just had to keep it steady and tidy to take his first win in the Moto2 European Championship. Jorge Navarro crossed the line in second place, with Taiga Hara holding on to third position. Celebrations all round then from Casadei as he jumped into the championship lead, but tied on points with the race winner from Misano, Alberto Sura, who charged from deeper in the pack to take a top 6 finish. Indeed, it was P4 getting the better of Roberto Garcia to take 4th position. So it doesn't quite look it there, but the cloudy skies, they were worse earlier today. As you can see, just spots of sunshine pushing through the clouds. 21 degrees now, much hotter than it was earlier this morning when, as you saw in the highlights there, a very wet track greeted Moto2 riders earlier today. Now conditions are far better. The last race we saw a dry race. Moto2 is the second race of the day and it will happen on dry track, and I am joined in the commentary booth here on the outskirts of Lisbon at Circuito do Estoril by Elliot York. Elliot, we had a thrilling opening race of the day. Mattia Casadei assuming control, well, not quite outright control, but jumping to the top of the leaderboard in the championship, the number 67 there. He is tied on points with the number 67 of Alberto Sura. Elliot, drier conditions now, a little bit of a mix and match grid, shall we say. It's certainly an intriguing proposition that awaits us.
Certainly is. We're going to get a different sort of race, aren't we, to what we saw in race 1 a couple of hours ago. Conditions, as you rightly say, Chris, have changed drastically. Pretty much a completely dry track now. I don't want to say completely dry, but 90% of it, from our view anyway, is dry. They've got to be a little bit cautious offline. We saw a couple of riders in the ETC race that's just gone by falling victim of conditions, still potentially running off line, holding too much brake into the corner, and down they went. So the riders will have watched that race, of course, and will have seen potentially where the tricky bits remain, and of course they've just gone on a couple of sighting laps as well to get a feel for the conditions. So yeah, different race coming up. But Mattia Casadei, starting from pole position, again, we'll be hoping it's not a different race in terms of results, Chris, because he was absolutely phenomenal earlier on today, operating on a completely different planet to everyone else, and it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, he was in a world of his own, a country acre of space as he crossed the line in first place in race 1 in the wet conditions. But as we said, I think it's going to be a very different proposition for him here in race 2. He did have the outright pace. I think he was 1.7 seconds clear in a wet qualifying session on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the dry. Taiga had it then. He took home second position, a podium, a first podium since 2021 in the class, as he returned to the category this year, P9 in Misano, P3 earlier on today. However, having finished on the podium, he had a little bit of a lady luck on his side, I think, as it seemed he might have been struggling for podium pace, but then an Ivo Lopez crash ended up disrupting some of the riders behind him, including Jorge Navarro, and he went wide, managed to end up catching Taiga Hara, but Eric Fernandez then crashed out himself. Edu Montero, another crasher from race 1. He'll be hoping for better fortunes this time round. He did remount actually and come in P17.
Yeah, debut row for Edu Montero this weekend, so he'll be hoping that he'll be seeing the checkered flag in this race. Just crashed out at turn 9 in the early exchanges of race 1. Tricky conditions, of course, so he'll be hoping for better fortunes this time around. Will Edu Montero on the 21 machine, and if Montero is not so much of a familiar face to you guys watching along at home, then I'm sure Jorge Navarro is. The vastly experienced Jorge Navarro, the Spaniards, running the number 11 on the forward EEST racing machine this weekend in his first Moto2 European Championship starts. 106 starts in Moto2 World Championship as Jorge Navarro, so a very experienced rider indeed, and used experience to great effect in race 1 to climb up to P2. A good race from Jorge Navarro, just was what we were expecting him to challenge for the podium and the pointy end of the points, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, he certainly knows where the podium is. 10 World Championship podiums in the intermediate class, I believe, and his first race here in the Moto2 European Championship, he stuck himself onto the box. Missed out in the opening round due to the World Super Sports, where he also competes. Where in Misano, that rider that was just on our screen, Alberto Ferrandez, he was on the podium. P3 for him.
Yeah, personal best back in Misano. 4 starts in this class for Alberto Ferrandez. Has been in this paddock for a while now. Spent 4 years in the European Talent Cup. Was third in that championship, behind the likes of David Alonso and Zonta van den Voorberg, and ahead of Ortola and Keras. So Ferrandez, a name to watch for sure on the number 54, taking a slightly different route up into Moto2 at the age of 16. And he'll be hoping to have a good season this year and catch the eye of the Grand Prix paddock in a couple of years' time when he's old enough to make the step up. But Alberto Ferrandez, great for him to be on the podium last time out in Misano, and he picked up a P7 in race 1 in tricky conditions. So yeah, Ferrandez one to watch, especially in the dry conditions where he's going to be a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, Eric Fernandez just popped up onto our screens a few moments ago. Started P6, finished P8 in race 1, but that doesn't tell half the story. He was riding in P2 before he crashed and blundered a pretty comfortable podium, I would say. But he did remount and managed to get himself back into the points. Double P8 finishes for the Moto2 rookie. He jumped up from the stock championship, having come runner-up to Danny Munoz there in 2023. It's been a pretty impressive start to his campaign in the Moto2 European Championship. Just a few moments away then from the race start. Mattia Casadei reporting there, launching the pole. Here we have Lorenzo Felon, also another rookie in this class. Moto3 World Championship fans will be familiar with Felon. He participated, was it over the last 2 or 3 seasons, CIP, Green Power, among the teams he rode for, 6 what course as well, I think. So he'll be well known to the Moto3 fans. But now it's a new journey for him, getting used to Moto2 machinery here in the Moto2 European Championship.
Yeah, it's good to see riders like Felon, who maybe have certain doors closed at this stage of their career in the Grand Prix paddock. The other doors opened and new routes to potentially further your career and get into the Moto2 and MotoGP World Championship. So good to see Lorenzo Fallon doing well, going well here in Estoril. He finished just outside the top 10, did Fallon, over in Misano. Picked up P14 earlier on in the wet conditions, so he'll be hoping he can climb into the top 10 for the first time in race 2. As we just saw Ivo Lopez there, Chris. He was in the podium fight early doors, wasn't he? The Portuguese rider is a race winner here, of course. Back in 2018, he won here in Estoril on home turf, but he crashed out at turn 4 in the early parts of the race when just trying to overtake Tiger Harder. So better fortunes lie ahead potentially for Ivo Lopez in front of his home crowd.
Yeah, Kaito Toba then, another mover from the Moto3 Championship, P13 earlier in the race. So it'll be interesting to see what Toba can do as he spends a full campaign aboard Moto2 machinery. Ivo Lopez then, and we saw a few Portuguese fans in around brandishing the Portuguese flag. He'll be out to hopefully give them something better than just a checkered flag finish. Unai Oradre then, an experienced rider in this class, a rookie here last season, number 10. As we see top 6 in Misano, P10 in Estoril. He'll be looking to collect some more points as his championship charge. You maybe would have associated him for a top 4, top 5, given his form from last season. For 2024 championship finish, you'd expect him to be among the top 5 contenders, and he did challenge in a couple of races last year for podiums for the victory. You'd expect him to be at the business end of things in the majority of races in 2024. As we zoom in on Mattia Casadei, so your grid for race 2 of the Moto2 European Championship here at Estoril sees Mattia Casadei, Tiger Hada and Edu Montero launch from the front row. Then it's Navarro, Fernandez, Rato Fallon and Ivo Lopez on row 2 and 3. Kaito Toba then launches from the head of row 4 with Unai Oradre and Monjardo. Jacopo Huschuk is on row 5 with Gimbert and Roberto Garcia. Alberto Sura has to charge from row 6 if he wants to maintain his championship lead. He's got Harrison Voigt and Shannon Inta for company. Then it is your stock 2023 stock champion Munoz with Volpi, Aubry and Di Vittori propping up the grid on row 8. So time for the warm-up lap here. Crucial warm-up lap, you must say, because as we said, they already had one race in the wet conditions. This will be their first here in dry conditions in Estoril. Their qualifying was in the wet too. Friday practice was a little bit drier, so they haven't had a lot of dry track time.
Yeah, intrigued to see how this one plays out. Obviously, Casadei was a dominant winner in race 1, but I don't think he's going to have it all his own way in terms of the margin, at least. If he does, then absolutely fair play to Casadei. But a lot more riders will be more confident in the dry conditions. They'll have had previous experience here in Estoril in the dry, potentially not in the wet, especially on their current machines. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. 19 degrees air temperature. You can see the clouds just rolling in. Potentially further threat of rain. Let's hope that stays away, though. But yeah, it's a dry race in the Moto2 European Championship. Not something I expected to be saying, Chris, earlier on, so good to see. And it's going to be interesting to see what can Alberto Sura do in this race. Produced a great comeback ride as well as Roberto Garcia did in race 1 in the wet conditions, but it's going to be a little bit tougher to come through the pack on a dry track, you'd have to think.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a rider of quality, one who challenged at the front quite a bit in 2023. Not ideal conditions yesterday in his qualifying, crashing all there, hence why he's a little further down the grid than we've become accustomed to seeing as we come around the corkscrew and into the SS section, and they will shortly roll up onto the grid. Just a reminder, 17 laps was scheduled, but due to the track conditions and conditions of the day, all races today will be 2/3 race distance. So a shortened race, almost a sprint of sorts for the Moto2 European Championship. Mattia Casadei was in a world of his own earlier today, and he's looking to go back-to-back. Estoril and Moto2 European Championship have become a home of back-to-back winners. We've got Cassidy chasing what Senna Aegis, Lucas Tulovic, Jari Montella have done, and of course Fermin Abdeguer in previous years. We could go all the way back to 2019 for the last time. There was no back-to-back winner in Estoril. So will that change coming in to race 2 here today? Just moments away from lights out then. The green flag is waved, the red flag is waved at the back of the grid. The lights are on, and Taiga Hada once again gets a cracking start from P2. Brilliant from the Japanese rider. That helped launch his podium charge in race 1. Cassidy slots into second. It's almost a carbon copy of what happened in race 1 as Eric Fernandez from the second row moves into P3. Jorge Navarro, though, has got a better start this time round. The number 11 is in 4th, just ahead of Fernandez.
Alberto Suro wasn't getting the start he would have wanted, was on the outside heading into turn 1. You could just see him there on the red helmet and the yellow bike. Not the start he would have wanted. He's made up 1 place, but he wanted more.
Yeah, so it's Hada who is leading here, Cassidy out front. Will Cassidy, I don't think Cassidy will want to leave Hada out there for so long. The cushion will not be as much as it was before. I'm not sure where Eric Fernandez has gone. He's after dropping a couple of places. Not sure what happened to him because Jorge Navarro is now into 3rd place and has got the hooks into the top 2 pretty quickly. Alberto Fernandez then just chasing, hanging into the slipstream and hanging onto the tail of Jorge Navarro. So everyone is bunching up behind Taiga Hada. We saw this in race 1 already. Hada had a brilliant launch from the line. He just did not have that pace to hold off the challenges of race winner Cassidy, of the pole sitter, of the likes of Jorge Navarro or Eric Fernandez when the questions came calling, and that is a great move up the inside. Is that Roberto Garcia all the way from the 5th row? I missed his start, but that is brilliant. He's already up onto the podium places.
Yeah, I was going to say Roberto Garcia, if Alberto Suro didn't get the start he would have wanted, Garcia absolutely did. From the 5th row all the way up into P3 on the opening lap. A lunge up the inside of Jorge Navarro, aggressive but clean from Roberto Garcia on the number 31. What an opening lap, but it's going to be Cassidy leading over the line, heading on to lap 2.
Yeah, and the streaming across the commentary box, the sound of Moto2 engine, perhaps the best sound in the sport, but it is Cassidy who leads into turn 1. Taiga Hada now has a new problem to contend with. It's the hard-charging Roberto Garcia. He is very much a championship contender. Perhaps we weren't talking about him as much as we should have at the beginning. Well, he's now making sure we'll talk about him again in the future as he block passes up the inside of Taiga Hada and takes 2nd place. Alberto Fernandez then, will he make a move on Hada anytime soon? He's very close to him with Jorge Navarro just behind him. Fernandez earlier on disposing of Navarro for 4th place. Garcia has got some serious pace here, Elliot. It looks like he's going to be flying by Cassidy at next given opportunity, unless Taiga Hada. Oh, wow. That has come from nowhere. He's dived up the inside to take it off. Will he make it stick? Hada, no! He is out of the seat. Garcia Hada is in the lead. Cassidy went wide. It is all happening here in Moto2.
That's a warning shot and a half for Garcia. Just got on the curb on the inside. We did mention that it's still pretty damp on the curbs. It wouldn't have dried as much as it has on the asphalt. So Garcia there just acting a little bit too much of the rear wheel on the gas coming on to the exit from turn 6. Nearly height sides out of contention. Just in the background you can see Alberto Suro is lurking. He's up into I think P7 as things stand up here. We'll get him across the line, but that was nearly disaster for Garcia, who'd made such a good start, but nearly ended up in the gravel. But he stayed on board, but that's a little bit of a warning shot, clearly pushing a lot in these opening exchanges. That
was an almost brilliant overtake from Alberto Fernandez, but it is Hada who is leading, but not for long. Mattia Cassidy, rinse and repeat. He goes down the front straight in 2nd, but exits turn 1 in 1st place, and Fernandez now is up into 2nd place. Hada is taken by 2 riders down the front straight, having led. Garcia, he had dropped behind a couple of riders, but he has fought his way back up into the top 4 with Jorge Navarro just behind them. So it's all very bunched up. Then it's Eric Fernandez, Danny Munoz as well. Fernandez and Munoz, stock rivals from 2023. They're going to renew their rivalries across the next few laps. Alberto Suro, Monjardo and Kaito Toba make up your top 10, and they are all bunched together. This could go any way. It's still very early days, but it is your race 1 winner, your pole sitter, your Moto2 2023 world champion, Mattia Cassidy, who is leading.
Yeah, the fighting at the front is exactly what Alberto Sura would have wanted. Had a lot of work to do, didn't get the start he would have wanted, didn't do Roberto Garcia and climb his way up to the podium places on the opening lap, but the number 67 machine there is in this lead group. They're all bunched together, battling away in this lead group, holding each other up, and Alberto Sura up into P8 as things stand is pretty much with them all now. So the hard work is more or less done for Sura. Now he's got to slowly pick his way through the group and up into the podium places. But yeah, a good opening couple of laps for Sura after a disappointing getaway.
Yeah, it's interesting now because the top three for the first time in the first few laps does not include Taiga Hada. We mentioned it before the race, would he have the pace to go with the fastest guys? And I think the answer is no. He's already been dropped by the top three, a few bike lengths, 7-8 bike lengths between them. So that will do Alberto Sura no favors, as Taiga Hada was holding up the top riders. Garcia now makes a move for second place ahead of Ferrandis, but Ferrandis has got the inside line coming into turn one. Will he be able to block him out? He's just too far behind, and that's very good from Garcia, who posts the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:41.70.
Yeah, just a tenth of a second quicker Garcia was on that last lap compared to race leader Casadei and Ferrandis. Alberto Sura was into the 140. He was 3/10 slower than the guys up at the front, but as we focus in on the number 67, Alberto Sura, he's up into 5th place as things stand now. So Sura slowly but surely picking his way through the group. He's got Taiga Hada up ahead of him up next, and there's a little bit of a gap that we've seen that's happened between Ferrandis and Taiga Hada, but Sura is pretty much where he would have wanted to be at this stage of the race as Garcia backs it in down into turn 6 and hangs it around the inside, looks across to Casadei, who's going to hold it into turn 7. Casadei's got the inside line, so Garcia's just going to have to relinquish this for now.
Absolute demon coming around turn 6 there, Garcia. To hold the line that tight was brilliant in these conditions. Remember, it was damp earlier on, and he's now going to take the lead on a left-hander again. That is two brilliant moves from Garcia. First at turn 6, then at turn 8 into the corkscrew, and now he is your race leader, having set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap, charging from deep on the grid. P15 he started. He is now in the lead, with Alberto Ferrandis taking second off Casadei, but Casadei is fighting back on the inside. Who will come down there side by side on the front straight? Casadei managed to respond, exiting the last corner. Ferrandis is into slipstream. Will he find the inside line coming into turn 1? It looks like he's just going to hunker down just in behind Casadei coming through the first couple right-handers. Sura now sets the fastest lap of the race. Where is he? He is right on the tail of Taiga Hada. That's where he is, 1:39.905. Some drama has happened behind. We've been focused on the lead, on the victory battle here, but some drama's happened behind because Alberto Sura is now up to 5th and Taiga Hada is in 4th. Then it's Eric Fernandez. So Sura is on the charge as well. The riders from deep on the grid are on the march here. Garcia is leading, then Sura in 5th place, with Casadei, Ferrandis and Hada in between them.
Garcia, the race leader, clearly thinks he's got the pace to try and pull away here. He was desperate to get to the front, wasn't he? Had that mistake here a couple of laps ago, nearly high-sided himself to the moon and out of contention, but he regrouped, regathered his thoughts, and he's got down to a great pace. He's setting the fastest second sector, 24.8, but pretty much matched by Casadei. Sura needs to get past Taiga Hada as soon as possible if he's got any hopes of winning this race. Taiga Hada, though, doing well to bridge the gap to Ferrandis at this moment in time. It's the gap between Casadei and Garcia that we've got to keep an eye on, because Garcia really is getting the hammer down now.
Yeah, half a second between them. Alberto Sura 1.5 seconds from the lead. Maybe he will just be eyeing up Casadei. First, he needs to get past Hada. Hada is proven a tricky customer to get by for the Italian and joint championship leader, but maybe this will present the first opportunity if he can get close enough coming into turn 1 to the Japanese rider on the number 23 bike. He opts for the inside line coming into turn 1. Will he have enough? Will he be able to block Hada? No, he won't be close enough, and remains in 5th place for the moment.
Gave it a good go, didn't he, down at turn 1, did Alberto Sura. He, along with Roberto Garcia, were the only two riders in the 1:39s, a 1:39.4. Though as Sura dives up the inside at turn 3, and is that going to be move made? I think it is, unless Hada makes a move back past, but harder, very experienced. He knows that Surra probably has a little bit of pace in hand, so what he can do is just follow Surra and try and tag onto the back of the 6-7 and drag him up to the podium fight as well. But a great move from Surra, a move he needed to make, of course. You can see Roberto Garcia pulling away in the background, his teammate Cassidy in second, and Ferrandez just there in third.
It's turning into an excellent Sunday salvage job for Alberto Surra, but it's more than a salvage job for Roberto Garcia. He once again posted the fastest lap of the race, a 1:39.4. Nobody else is in the 1:39s. That is a sensational lap from the Spaniard, who is now your race leader and looks to be pulling the pin and opening up a gap over Mattia Cassidy in second, Alberto Ferrandez in third. Ferrandez might have some trouble soon though. Alberto Surra actually is one of those riders in the 1:39s. He is in the high 1:39s and he is gaining on Ferrandez in third place. So from the 5th and 6th row, was it, that Alberto Surra and Roberto Garcia have come from, they're now both on for big podiums. One for the race win and one for the podium.
We shouldn't be too surprised to see this pace from Garcia. He was 6/10 faster than Arade in second place in practice in the dry conditions. So clearly in the dry conditions, as we're seeing now, Roberto Garcia has superior pace, and he's showing that in the race. It's one thing to do it in practice, of course. It's another thing to do it in the race, especially starting from as low down as he did, but he picked his way up expertly through the pack, got a fantastic start on the opening couple of laps, and Garcia now is pulling clear. It's all now about the fight for podium, you have to believe. Unless Garcia's cooking his tyres, he's 1.4 seconds clear and has such an advantage. He's really wringing the neck of that Calex machine. Cassidy in second place has no answers at this moment in time.
Yeah, as things stand then in the championship, Cassidy moves into the outright lead, 3 points clear of Garcia, who moves into second. Surra is riding in fourth place at the moment, but it's a good Sunday salvage job. He would only be 7 points behind. Bear in mind, he started P16 on the grid. So Garcia then is your comfortable race leader, but one thing, maybe a caveat you must keep in mind, that it's a dry track now, but it has not been dry all day. There are certainly some wet spots out there, some damp spots, so if he goes off the racing line, he's got to keep it tidy, avoid any dramas out front, and it looks like he could come home and hose in first place. Cassidy, Ferrandez now second and third. There is a podium battle brewing here. The storm may have abated, but the podium battle is brewing.
Certainly is. Surra then just tucked up behind Ferrandez. 4 laps to go when we cross the line. Cassidy is going to have a job in his hands here to keep P2. What are the lap times that have been posted? Surra, a 1:39.6, the fastest rider on track that time around. Roberto Garcia, 1:39.7 at the front. Cassidy, the slowest of your top 4. There's Alberto Surra. Where has he gone? He's gone down in turn 1.
Surra is down. I saw sparks flying in the background. Head in hand in the stadium. Surra is on out of the race. He's trying to remount, but he will do very well to pick up any points. He charged from P16 on the grid to fourth place. It looked like he was in that podium battle. We'll get a replay in a moment to see what happened, but it is now Garcia whose Sunday salvage job is turning into a dream result for the Spaniard. Mattia Cassidy, he won't be aware of what's gone on behind him, but now he is running away with the championship lead. Garcia will still be in second, but Surra was the championship leader coming into this. He's now lost, well, let's say 20 points in this race to Mattia Cassidy. Head in hands in the commentary box, head in hands on the track as well. Huge disappointment for the Italian.
Love to get a replay, I'm sure we will do at some point. Going down at turn 1, we've not seen that yet today. It's the hardest braking zone, of course, on this track after the near kilometre long front straight. Hard on the anchors down in turn 1. Surra, of course, pushing hard to try and get his way onto the podium ahead of Ferrandez and Cassidy, his teammate. You can, of course, see Roberto Garcia up into the lead, trying not to lose as many points as possible. But that's a disaster to end his weekend here in Estoril for Alberto Surra. No podium this weekend, unlike in Misano, after winning there from lights out to finish. As Roberto Garcia, on the other hand, continues on his way. 1.8 seconds the lead with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, under 3 laps to go till Roberto Garcia stands on the top step of the Moto2 European Championship podium for the very first time. He, of course, has had a couple of podiums earned this year and last year to his name, but this will be the first ever top step. If he can keep it clean and tidy over the remaining laps here, about 2.5 of them remaining. Mattia Cassidy won earlier in the day, and we've got a red flag flashing in the background. We'll double check what's going on there, but it's Mattia Cassidy. Yeah, red things flag have slowed. We have a red flag in the background. We're not sure what has happened there. With 2.5 laps to go, Roberto Garcia, I think, will be awarded the race win. We'll bring you confirmation as soon as we find out ourselves. There's Mattia Cassidy in second with Alberto Ferrandez in third. We see a couple of riders have stopped in sector 2. The likes of Danny Munoz, Kaito Toba are down, and there's confirmation of the red flag. Unai Oradre. We hope that it's just some track debris on track, and that any riders involved in a potential incident are okay. We'll bring you news as soon as we know, but it brings an end to the Moto2 Race 2 event for the moment here, with a brilliant performance from Roberto Garcia, seeing him take P1.
Yeah, interesting end. Unfortunately, we're not going to be treated to the podium battle, but hopefully for all the riders involved, we're not sure what happened, we've not got any information here in the commentary box. Hopefully everyone is okay and it's potentially just a bit of liquids on the asphalt. Yeah, fingers crossed it's nothing too serious.
Okay, and here we can see some of the images. That's the number 16 of Kaito Toba, who's trying to remount. You can see the leathers have been very scuffed. I'm not sure whose bike that is in the background, potentially that of Danny Munoz or Radre. It seems they both went down the same place, but it's good to see at least Kaito Toba walking away, maybe a little bit miffed that his bike has been taken away. It's the number 10 machine of Oradre then being taken away by the marshals, who are doing a great job here in Estoril. No sign just yet of where Oradre is. And we'll bring you latest updates as soon as we know. We see Oradre just there. He was having a rest, and he's walking away, thankfully. Okay, and in Parc Ferme then, that means that the result is going to stand. It's a little bit anticlimactic, but it would have been a big task for anyone to have caught Garcia. He had opened up a near 2-second advantage with 2 laps to go and looked in sensational form. The Spaniard, his first ever win. He's come from P15 on the grid to do it. As we catch some replays of the action here in Estoril, the number 31, Roberto Garcia. Look at the gap he had opened up from 15th on the grid. Sensational stuff from Garcia. Poor qualifying, he had a crash. Wet conditions obviously played their part. He was part of not podium battle, but the battle for P4 in race 1 in the wet conditions as well. So he did charge early in race 1 here in Estoril, but finished P6. Much better finish here for him today. That's his first ever win in the Moto2 European Championship, and should be rightly celebrated. As we see, is that his teammate who has come rushing in from the Fanti Cardoso Racing Team Monjardo. It is indeed. So hugs, congratulations all around. RG31, a race winner here in Estoril in the Moto2 European Championship for the very first time, and he has announced himself as a championship contender. 3 races in, plenty more rounds to come, plenty more racing to come. Expect Roberto Garcia to be at the forefront of it. Mattia Cassidy then, second place for him. He won the race here earlier in the morning in wet conditions. He can smile, big smile there, waved at the camera as well. Very happy with his race. Surely he may not have had the win. He may not have gone back-to-back. The first time in Moto2 since 2019 that we haven't had a back-to-back winner in Estoril. But nonetheless, he can be very satisfied with 45 points collected from a possible 50, which sees him become the outright Moto2 European Championship leader. Alberto Ferrandez then, vamos, he says, back on the podium. A super ride from him. He charged hard from the second row. P5 he started. Didn't quite go his way in race 1. Much better outing. P7 in race 1, a much better outing. Ferrandis now jumps up to 3rd in the championship. 17 points off Mattia Casadei. Alberto Garcia just 3 points behind, with Alberto Sura now 20 points behind. Crashed out of contention here just a couple laps ago. Very disappointing for the Italian. The race winner in Misano. Disappointing qualifying crash, didn't help his case either on Saturday. But it's all about Roberto Garcia, the number 31. He is now with our man on the ground, Elliot York.
Roberto, a fantastic race, a great victory. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's my first P1 in Estoril. I'm very happy and don't speak because it's very exciting. Thank you for my team Cardoso Racing and my family.
Ian Castellano.
Ha sido una carrera un poco difícil porque salíamos atrás, ya que en el quali hemos tenido un pequeño resbalón que no nos ha podido facilitar el clasificarnos un poco más para adelante, pero sí que es verdad que teníamos el ritmo para estar luchando por los primeros puestos y sí, muy contento, sin palabras, y agradecérselo a mi team Cardoso y a mi familia, que los quiero muchísimo.
Gracias.
Nada.
So this is how Roberto Garcia became a race winner in the Moto2 European Championship. Mattia Casadei started from pole position, but it's Taiga Hada who took the whole shot once again in race 2, as he did in race 1. Eric Fernandez slotted in 3rd position with Jorge Navarro on the chase. So Hada led Casadei. Navarro then was bunted wide by the hard-charging Roberto Garcia, who had come from absolutely nowhere. P15 on the grid to launch his charge to victory. Alberto Ferrandis was just behind them as Garcia rubbed elbows once again with Taiga Hada, pushing him wide. He was taking no prisoners as he set his sights on P1. Casadei then was leading the race. Garcia was in 2nd, but Hada showed he wasn't giving up the position easy. Fought back for 2nd place, but Garcia managed to keep it pinned, almost, and then was out of the seat, dropped back down a couple of positions, allowing Hada to retake the lead. Casadei dropped into 2nd with Ferrandis in the final podium position. Garcia was behind Navarro at this point, but then continued his charge as Hada held up riders at the front. Casadei eventually got passed through, as did Alberto Ferrandis, both on the front straight. Hada dropped to 3rd. Garcia then demoted him another position before Garcia moved past the 54 of Ferrandis. Slotting in behind Mattia Casadei, Garcia was on the coattails of the Italian, while another Italian was charging hard. Alberto Sura, 67 machine, was looking to recoup some points. Back out front, a brilliant move at 7-8. At turns 8 and 9 saw Garcia take the lead. Alberto Sura then another rider to come through and push Taiga Hada back. He was riding in 4th place and looked on for a good Sunday salvage job, but as you can see in the background, it was head in hands for the Italian as he crashed out. Jorge Navarro then chasing after Unai Oradre, but this is what happened. Unai Oradre high-siding out of action onto the track. Multiple riders caught up in that incident, and the red flag was waved. We'd have completed over 2/3 difference, race distance I should say. That is how it was done. So that's how Roberto Garcia became a race winner in Moto2. He now gets to stand on the top step of the podium for the very first time, alongside Alberto Ferrandis, who's becoming a bit of a regular on the rostrum. Mattia Casadei, no stranger to a top 3 finish, race winner here this morning, now podium finisher in the afternoon. It all belongs to one rider this afternoon, Roberto Garcia. Very, very proud moment for him. So here we have the trophies being awarded by Mr. Armando Marquez, Vice President of the FMP here, to the team manager of Atlantic Cardoso Racing. Third place trophy then for Alberto Ferrandez. Another excellent ride from the Spaniard. Mattia Casadei receives a trophy from Mr. Jean-Marc Desnuez. Second place, 45 points for the Italian and now the outright championship leader, leaving Estoril. And the Camara, managing director of the circuit here in Estoril, hands over the winning trophy to jubilant Roberto Garcia. And now we get ready to listen to the Spanish national anthem.
Agora a cerimónia Prosecco e soda.
Spray the bubbly. Oof. And Garcia seeks out the team manager there as he sprays out the fizzy water. Mattia Casadei with the Prosecco. And celebrations are jubilant, but not overboard from our top three here in the Moto2 Championship as they begin to look towards the future already. The long campaign awaiting them. Catalunya awaits next for the JuniorGP Championship. Moto2, of course, will be back in action. But leaving Estoril, these are the results. Roberto Garcia crossing the line almost 2 seconds ahead of Casadei. Alberto Ferrandez then on the podium. Taiga Hada missed out on the podium this time around in race 2. Danny Munoz, 2023 Stock Championship, got the better of his stock rival that year, Eric Fernandez, for 5th. Kaito Toba, Francesco Mongiardo and Harrison Voigt all inside the top 10, with Jorge Navarro dropping off later in the race. He picks up P10. Unai Oradre is classified despite the crash. Gimber, Lopez, Felon and Mattia Volpi round out the point scoring positions. Mattia Rato, Eduardo Montero missing out. Disappointing from Montero. He starts on the front row. Jacopo Hostruc, Gianpaolo Di Vittori and Shannon Inter, the rest of your finishers. Alberto Sura crashing out just a bit too early for him to be classified, so he picks up no points here in race 2 in Estoril. And this is what it does to the championship standings. Well, we will find out momentarily. Here we go. So the outright leader, we will see once it pops up, is Mattia Casadei on 58 points, 3 clear of Roberto Garcia. Alberto Ferrandez, P3 after his P3 in Estoril race 2. Alberto Sura, as you can see, the devastating effect that has on his championship chances, 20 points behind Casadei now. Hada in 5th, Munoz 6th, Navarro 7th. Good going from Navarro in his first weekend. Then it's Eric Fernandez, Unai Oradre inside the top 10. Voigt, Toba, Gimber, all on 13 and 12 points. Mattia Rato on 11. Lorenzo Felon on 9. Then it's Brett Roberts. Ivo Lopez picked up 3. Brett Roberts we didn't see in action here today. The South African. Jacopo Hostruc and Mattia Volpi then on 2 points each. So it is Casadei on top, leaving here with 8 more races to come in the Moto2 European Championship. However, the afternoon, despite Casadei having won in the morning, the afternoon belongs to Roberto Garcia. As you can see on the very far left-hand side of your screens, the number 31, charging hard from P15 on the grid. The 23 of Taiga Hada took the initiative early on. Mattia Casadei slipped into 2nd as Eric Fernandez slipped into 3rd from 2nd on the grid. But keep an eye on 31, it takes maybe, what, 4 riders here coming through at turn 1. This is what launched his victory charge. Brilliant stuff from Roberto Garcia.
Yeah, look at the way he dives into turn 1. Plenty of riders pocketed there for Garcia. He was starting on the right-hand side of the grid. Of course, turn 1 right-hander helped him out there. You could see on the other side of the track, Alberto Sura. I thought he'd just got onto the curb during the race, but it wasn't. He was just getting a little bit too trigger-happy, I think, Garcia there. In the opening couple of laps, he got a good start, didn't he? Just getting a little bit excited when he had a chance to go into P1. But this is when he did go into P1. Up the inside of Casadei, we've seen a lot of moves happen there down at turn 9. The Gancho corner here in Estoril. These are on the opening few laps. Alberto Sura there, number 67. He was making his way through the field as well, wasn't he? Doing a good job of it as well. He got up to the podium fight. Wasn't quite as successful as Garcia was, but still doing a great job. Was the now former championship leader, the Mazzano race winner. Hopefully, in these highlights, we'll get a replay of what happened to Sura down at turn 1. Just slipped out of contention, and there you can see the forlorn figure of Alberto Sura. Really disappointed, of course, to suffer a DNF.
Yeah, you would have to feel it's 13 points at least left behind by the Italian. This is what brought out the red flag then. Jorge Navarro chasing Unai Oradre. Oradre just high-siding. And as you can see, didn't go off track. His bike remained on track. It looks like someone else got caught up in that one. That was Kaito Toba, I think, who got caught up in it. That's what brought out the red flag. And that's what helped deliver an opening win. First ever win for Roberto Garcia here. May not have got the checkered flag how he wanted, but he was well on course for victory before the red flag was brought out. Mattia Casadei, 45 points taken. Alberto Ferrandez, P3 taken, as he moves up to P3 in the championship and is maybe coming as a dark horse into the Moto2 campaign this year.
Yeah, good weekend for Alberto Ferrandez, still only 16 years old, so plenty of experience to be gained from the number 54. As we mentioned, he was in the European Talent Cup for 4 years and raced some familiar names in there, most notably David Alonso, Zonta van den Gorberg, Tola, Angel Piqueras and more. Yeah, Alberto Ferrandez taking a different route, hopefully for his sake up into the World Championship in a couple of years to come. But a good weekend of racing in Moto2, Chris. Roberto Garcia, of course, winning race 2.
Yeah, and the day belongs to him. Mattia Casadei, race 1 winner, but it's Roberto Garcia who leaves race 2. Second in the championship and on the top step of the rostrum.
So coming up then is the final race of the day, stock. We're going to take around about a 10-minute break ahead of schedule here in Estoril with the shorter race distances and the red flag. So stick around for the final race of the day if you fancy it. We'll be back in around about 10 minutes time for the stock race. So see you very shortly.